You're listening to Built to Convert, the podcast where growth-minded marketers, founders, and creators come to level up. No hype, no guesswork, just bold insights that drive results. Let's go.
Hey everyone, I'm Tyler Lane, founder of Session Interactive and the host of Built to Convert, where we talk with growth-minded leaders in healthcare, tech, e-commerce, and finance. We dig into how data, marketing, and strategy come together to help organizations make smarter decisions and scale with purpose in today's digital world. This episode is brought to you by Session Interactive, a digital marketing agency that helps businesses turn complex data into clear strategy. From SEO and analytics to paid media and content, Session zeroes in on what truly drives growth, smarter decisions, and better user experiences. Known for their collaborative approach and measurable results, they partner with forward-thinking companies across industries to solve digital challenges and turn them into opportunities. All right, today I've got Chad here from Rise 25, who has done thousands of interviews with successful entrepreneurs and CEOs. And we have flipped the script, and he's going to interview me. Chad, great to see you. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Tyler. It's great to talk to you. Hey, I know you guys at Session Interactive kind of do a lot of work with credit unions, so I was hoping to dive into that a little bit deeper today with you.
Love it. Love it.
Great. As we get started here, when you first begin working with a credit union, what are the first digital signals you look at? You know, whether it's SEO, visibility, paid media performance, analytics quality, conversion paths, anything like that. Yeah,
absolutely. We do our pretty robust discovery, working with subject matter experts, obviously what the core goals of that particular credit union may be. And we're conducting expanded analysis from there, auditing essentially all of their core channels, and then putting together an actual strategy. So I think the digital signals that we're looking for is, what is their attribution and data cleanliness and health of that. A lot of credit unions are still fairly archaic in the sense of tracking end-to-end attribution. So if someone comes to their credit union and submits an application, a lot of that's not tracked very well. So that's a huge opportunity for us. And then really fixating these credit unions are looking to drive brick and mortar traffic to their individual locations. And so local SEO, generative engine optimization, localized paid media efforts is a real core component of what we offer, and trying to tell that story and ensure that they're a solid fixture of the community. So those are big pieces of what we work on with credit unions in terms of the digital signals.
I know you guys like to turn data into actionable insights. What does that look like specifically for a credit union, when they're trying to grow memberships, deposits, loan applications, branch visits, whatever?
Yeah, I think, Google Analytics is a core platform we still use to this day, and everyone really should. It's the benchmark in terms of web tracking. Yeah, now there's a lot of other tools out there. And Google Analytics did themselves a kind of a disservice, making their newer instance GA4 quite complicated. So I think for us, it's utilizing GA4 and Google Tag Manager and other platforms to try to tell a story, and in certain cases layman's terms, not overcomplicated and not necessarily get into the nitty gritty or too much detail for those individuals. Essentially fixating on, okay, we're tracking applications, we're attributing to various channels and particular efforts. We have an attribution model that we're looking to evolve and or remain consistent. And that's kind of the story we want to tell. At the end of the day, we want brands, in particular credit unions, that can trust our strategy that's fixated on their core goals and KPIs, and don't necessarily need to know all the individual details unless they want to, right? We're always available to do that, but we really want them to fixate on what they do best, and we can fixate on what we do best in terms of our relationship.
Sure. Sounds like a good approach. Hey, I know you guys, I saw on your website, you guys have worked with credit unions like Canvas and Community Financial. How important is local SEO? You kind of mentioned that a little bit earlier, compared with broader organic search strategy for places like that.
Yeah. Listen, with large language models and siphoning market share away from Google, and it brings up a lot of themes. It brings up a lot of efforts that we already knew are important in terms of those localized community-based signals. for Canvas Credit Union, 30 plus locations here in Colorado, similar to the other credit unions we work with as well. And they're really wanting to fixate on driving, again, brick and mortar traffic. So what unique attributes about that individual location, where it's located, what community involvement do they have, what scholarships are relevant to that area, right? What other signals are they sponsoring a local event in that particular area near that branch? These are just components around PR, components around social distribution, and just other brand mentions and efforts to get build citations, not only for Google search, but for large language models as well, as people are really utilizing those more and more. So, that's on the organic side, but definitely expanding upon that, utilizing paid efforts. We think about paid in terms of essentially supplementing your organic efforts. Paid is that more of an immediate gratification. So if we can geofence around those locations and push people with unique offers to those branch locations, and then also support them organically, we're doing our best ability to try to push them naturally to those locations.
How can you mentioned paid being immediate gratification. When does the long-term gratification kick in for like SEO? When can you typically? I know it's maybe different for everybody. Typically expect that.
Yeah, it's always evaluating what search demand is at that particular location and what equity in terms of search equity they've built up. So current rankings, backlinks, citations, and that's not only for SEO, but also for large language models in terms of what presence do they currently have. Reviews, community, again, as I mentioned, community relationships, other organizations that they're a part of, not only like Better Business Bureau, but other things that they can build up. So I think in terms of results, it varies, of course, and search demand at local level is likely fairly low, but it's higher context. So we really want to fixate on people that are looking for a new financial institution, looking for a credit union near me, right, or a credit union versus bank, or all these different things. People will only go, are not going to travel more than 10, 15 minutes to their branch. They want something fairly close in proximity, and they want it to resonate with them in terms of what's local and what's applicable to their insights. So, typically it's hard to always put time associated with the efforts, but with a strategy in terms of a core location category page, an individual location page, increase or improvements, and then supporting content to really fixate on that individual location, other locations, we can start seeing results within 3 months or so on the organic side, honestly, if things are already in a good place.
So given the importance of local branch visibility, what are some maybe of the most common local SEO issues that credit unions struggle with?
Yeah, it brings me back to just where we're at with large language models and kind of the archaic nature of some of those signals, like reviews. Yeah, we know those are important. Responding to reviews, making sure your local citations from Google Business Profile to Apple to Bing, et cetera, are all up to date. That name, address, phone number, and the credibility associated with those. So we constantly see just lower prioritization on some of those local citations, which is really important. We also see just the lack of unique content on those location branch pages. Maybe there's not even individual location branch pages, which that is mandatory. That human element, like who's the branch manager, what individual services or unique services does this branch offer versus the others. So those are certain things that we're really looking out for, and among others, and trying to hone in on those core opportunities to improve those, and then continue to evolve it too. Is there a new manager? Is there new services? Is the branch just get just any changes in terms of the location or exterior, interior shots? So those human elements, are really important to capitalize on.
So there's those services, and then credit unions often offer similar products, checking, savings, mortgage, auto loans, HELOCs, CDs, whatever. Is there a way to make those kind of stand out in results?
Yeah, it's tough, right? I think that's the big thing, is like a lot of these credit unions that we work with, across the country are offering a lot of the same things. And I think that's something we recently had conversations on the podcast with some credit union leaders across the country, and it is tough. You've got kind of the looky-loos that are just rate shopping. You've got individuals that are looking to fixate or have a new financial institution. We have people that just don't know what a credit union currently offers versus their bank or other things like that. So I think there's always important components around, maybe, a lot of these offerings are fairly similar. Yes, there'll be certain unique aspects that one credit union offers versus others. And I think at the end of the day, it's like, okay, what is truly valuable to their ideal client profile that the credit union can hone in on? Is it expanding upon rates? Yes, I think that's always an important component to improve rates and to get the best possible. But also what's the user experience? One story, not to go off tangent too much. We just switched banks at Session Interactive, and a financial institution, regardless of if it's a bank or credit union, very, very different. But we were, switching, and there was no proactive outreach to us, right? There was no like, hey, we're just curious, you're withdrawing funds. And those are core components that I think a lot of these credit unions we're talking to are, hey, they're noticing patterns with their patrons around their, not taking advantage of other services they could value add. They're not getting treatment from, a small business steward at their institution. These are certain things that they can just see. They have so many data points that they really want to fixate on the customer service when a lot of their services are in certain cases commoditized. So big thing around human element.
Sure. I don't know, maybe a lot of people don't even know what separates a credit union from a bank. And maybe if you grew up and your parents had a credit union, they just called it the bank. So you just never paid attention to what a credit union, what benefits it could offer. What role does content marketing play for credit unions? Maybe when it comes to like education for things like that, or trust, or long-term member relationships.
Yeah, listen, I've told this multiple times to individuals our current clients and individuals we've had on the podcast that are in the credit union field. It's amazing. Like, they drink the Kool-Aid, right? They're incredibly passionate about their industries. And I think, you look at banks, they're for-profit corporations, owned by shareholders versus, banks or credit unions, which are member-owned nonprofits, not-for-profit cooperatives typically. And so that is a big piece. What I mentioned earlier is around the community component. And I think in a lot of places, individuals are swayed or want to be part of a community feel versus more of a corporate entity like a large bank, where they don't necessarily feel the level of customer service that they may get or should get at a credit union. So I think those are core components that definitely differentiate the two. In terms of content marketing efforts, I think, credit unions they're not, they have, of course, financial advice and expertise and things like that. But I think ultimately they're not meant to be financial advisors necessarily in terms of their content marketing efforts, but they are meant to be to showcase stories around testimonials and what's worked and what didn't work, and how individuals are interacting with a credit union, what they've been able to be exposed to, and what learnings they're being offered with through content marketing efforts, whether it's savings habits or investing, or, hey, I didn't know, what a HELOC was. I didn't know I could take advantage of that and improve my house or allocate the funds towards something else and to try to bolster certain aspects of my home or other efforts. So those are ongoing efforts, and those 100% could be where banks take advantage of as well. But I think it's really touting more of the community feel that credit unions can continue to differentiate from the banks.
How do you decide which financial education topics would be maybe on a blog versus what could become a conversion-focused landing page?
Yeah, I love that. And I think, the classic answer is obviously conducting expanded keyword research, but more so as audience-based research. That's really what's happening in terms of, these credit unions have a litany of data points, obviously within the financial components in terms of, people's deposits versus withdrawals, of course, at a very simplistic component, but there's also a ton of surveys and insights that are going out. So I think ongoing surveys and understanding what people are really gravitating towards. Obviously, within credit unions, there's sales opportunities and what questions are coming up on a continuous basis there. I think the effort outside of even this financial industry is to empower websites to educate people right across the board and answer those core questions on a continuous basis. And a lot of the informational queries we're seeing within search engines are getting swallowed up with AI overviews within Google. But there's still a ton of opportunities for consideration and decision-based content around bank versus credit union and other core components that are really will empower people to get the information they need. And I think that's just also something is we want people to rely more on websites and their ability and essentially have more efficient conversations with their constituents.
You talked about paid media being kind of immediate gratification, which is nice, but that can also be expensive in financial services. How do you kind of help credit unions spend efficiently when they're competing maybe against a larger bank or something like that?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I think there's core aspects right around the local regional banks and credit unions, and their competitors, which are banks, in a lot of ways is to hone in on those local kind of geofencing areas and look for keyword opportunities that 100% they're gonna be able to take advantage of. Essentially, as I mentioned before, likely going to be lower volume in terms of search demand, but likely higher context. And I think it ultimately is driving people to an offer or a page that's really personalized to their query or what they're really interested in, versus sending them to generic pages with like the homepage or the subfolder or a random subfolder when they could really hone in on unique offerings. So, a lot of these local or state specific credit unions actually, again, the search demand isn't super high, but they're really fixated on contextual value. So in certain cases, it's it's a necessary evil, if you will, that they need to have a presence and need to take more real estate up within the search results pages. And so, but there's ways to kind of throttle it up and down to make sure there's an efficient spend and there's not an over reliance on paid media. I think that what we see as well with select credit unions.
When it comes to PPC and display campaigns, how do you kind of determine what a credit union should promote, whether it's brand awareness or membership or deposits or loans or specific products? How do you kind of figure that out?
Yeah, it's each credit union is different. I think we at Session are a performance-based agency, right? So we're really fixated on lead generation, revenue driving activities, but we also really we understand and respect the need for awareness and other types of efforts that may differ from our KPIs that are really fixated on lead gen. So we realize that there's opportunities to kind of bolster awareness, to develop retargeting pools for our display related audience, and then really honing in on the efficiencies with driving people to actually take an action on a website. I think there's always, we're approached but we're collaborating with our credit unions to develop strategies that will touch on different research stages of the funnel that individuals will go through. So it's really important to essentially evaluate what's really the most important at the time, and then also build trust with the credit union around, hey, this is an opportunity we want to test out, right? And it may not lead to direct conversion value, but we believe it's going to lead to indirect, or it's an opportunity to just kind of check that box in terms of a tactical component that we offered, and maybe it didn't work right away. So I think those are the type of relationships, even outside of credit unions, which we want to develop with our brands around the trust to, okay, you've proven yourself on the personal rapport and the performance rapport. Okay, now here's some incremental budget to go and test other areas, whether it's expanded in display or other paid markets or other efforts within social or other things that we can get creative with. So I think that's a big piece of what we offer.
I know you guys at Session Interactive emphasize clean analytics. Tell us what those are, and then maybe what tracking or attribution problems that you might commonly see with credit union websites.
Sure. Attributions has always been a theme. It's always been a passion of mine ever since I've got started in this industry. And it's increasingly very difficult, especially with large language models. There's referral tracking from citations that you can click on within LLMs, but ultimately you're not understanding a lot of what you're getting. That traffic is generally a subset of some of the other traffic that you're getting, typically within the 9 or 10 different channels that are driving traffic to the site. So we're evolving our KPIs for sure. And I think, traffic and impressions and keyword rankings are always going to be, not necessarily always, but really are going to be a mainstay of what we report on. But I think the goal is to more so switch that thinking around fixating on engagement metrics. And those, brings me back to the original days of Google Analytics and pages per session duration, bounce rate. Those are some core components that we want to hone in on different subfolders, individual pages. And then at the end of the day, like really what's important. And that's going to be around conversions, and what those conversions are can vary, but a lot of the way, of course, with credit unions, it's around applications. So making sure end-to-end application tracking is established, and that we pride ourselves in being able to accomplish that with a variety of third-party vendors, as credit unions use quite a bit of third-party vendors to go through the application process. So really important that we nail that. And then also is being honest and open with credit unions too, in terms of what we believe is accurate versus more directional based. And I think there's always a need to continue to improve attribution models and to continue to see how people are engaging with multiple channels prior to a conversion event, and not always fixating on last click attribution, which is pretty easy to do.
Yeah, I was going to say, so a member journey, you could start with, researching the place, researching a number of places, building trust, making a decision offline. What does conversion rate optimization then look like for a credit union?
Yeah, I love that. I think, that's also a big piece of what we're doing for a lot of credit unions, as well as a lot of our supporting brands, is around outlining conversion optimization strategies for them. I think the biggest piece that I've learned over the years, like paid media departments typically are fixated on optimizing the platform as much as possible. And a lot of the post-click, still to this day, which is beyond me, it makes me shake my head, is that they're not fixating on really the user flow nearly as much as they should. And it's like, hey, we're driving this traffic, but it's not converting. It's like, okay, like, come on, like we know, and they're fixating on the platform. So yes, we want to fixate on the platform, but we also want to have, in certain cases, equal reliance on our post-click experience within the website. And we should be sending traffic to, dedicated pages that are of conversion value. And in certain cases, sites are not set up. A lot of cases are not set up to convert people correctly. And I think for us, it's to recommend a variety of things, going through an audit and actually layering on a strategy around CRO that's going to be benefit to all of your it's going to be benefit to any channel that's driving traffic to the site in terms of improving those conversion elements. But also, a big part of CRO is also improving engagement within a site. So taking a look and analyzing Google Analytic data, heat mapping and scroll tracking data, if there are qualitative insights in terms of survey technology or other feedback that we can get, that's absolutely always welcomed. And we're not, it's the piece of the pie. It's pieces of the pie. Is it the full picture? Always? No. But I think I mentioned the term directionally accurate. And that's where we can get into a couple of different testing philosophies. One, an inline test where we essentially have enough data and insights that we know this page or experience needs to be revamped entirely. Whereas if we were to change that and go live, we wouldn't know exactly what changed. We just knew the general experience improved significantly. So that's very difficult, but also recommended in certain cases. And then there's A/B testing, right, which is a much more longer tailed approach, which is going to fixate on one element at a time. Some local credit unions even if they have a lot of locations, just don't have the amount of traffic to expedite a test like that. So it takes much longer. So, but either way, it's really important brands continue to fixate on that.
Last question for you. So obviously, AI has changed the way people are searching for everything these days, rather than just Google or
Sure.
a search engine. How do you think that AI search, generative search, and maybe just changing consumer behavior in general is affecting the way credit unions need to approach SEO and digital strategy?
I was going to post about this on LinkedIn today, or maybe sometime this week. And obviously, we're doing a ton of work in AI ourselves, and we're launching our session interactive labs component, where we're going to be building out process and workflows for our various brands. Credit unions, of course, will be within that mix. But search is changing, and I think there's a lot of pundits out there saying SEO is dead or dying. It's changing, it's evolving, and it's really important that we embrace that. And what these large language models really represent to me, represents everything we've always wanted to do for brands, right? For PR components, social distribution, content diversification, community outreach in reference to the PR comments, and a variety of other things in addition to a core foundation on-page presence. Those are all items that we've always wanted to do. And unfortunately, a lot of our brands within the credit unions too are game for a lot of that, but they also have limited bandwidth and limited budget. And I think that those things require quite a bit of due diligence and consistency. So those are areas that we'll continue to tap into with brands that are flexible and really warrant some of that focus, while others really just need to fixate on their core technical and on-page and content foundation. So things are changing, and we're here for it, and we're addressing and adopting new processes across the board, and it's exciting times, and it's an opportunity for patrons and prospective clients of credit unions to gain more information and where are these large language getting the information? They're getting them from websites. So it's important that we have our best foot forward in terms of answering those topical questions and supporting those individuals as they go through their research journey.
All right. Hey, good stuff, Tyler. Thanks so much for having me today.
Thanks, Chad.
Good to talk to you.
Yeah, great questions. I appreciate it.
So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Built to Convert. If you're serious about growth, don't just listen. Subscribe, leave a review, and follow us for new episodes that drop straight into your feed. Until next time, keep building.